Hi, friends. The reflection is for the Ascension. Now, 5 archdioceses will observe this on the 40th day exactly, and then some will observe it the Sunday before Pentecost. So be sure you are mindful what it is. And if you are in the archdiocese that observe the 40th day, you better be sure you are going to Mass. Otherwise, you have broken the third commandment. So don't do that. Don't do it, please, for the love of God. Anyway, the 40th day of Easter is known as the Ascension. Now, the events that happen are actually within days, right? But the Catholic Church, in their wisdom, thought, you know what? It's a good idea we stretch it for a good 50 days. And sure enough, it has happened. Because keep in mind, too, there was so much that happened on Easter Sunday. From the resurrection, the road to Emmaus, and of course, Jesus appearing to his apostles and disciples before he decided to sit at the right hand of God. In the Acts of the Apostles, which is basically the opening 11 verses of the first chapter, we hear about Theophilus, who is, of course, the historian that recorded the early church. And he says that the promise of the Father, about which you have heard me speak, for John baptized with water, but in a few days you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit. Now, what profound words. You see, what happened is that, St. John the Baptist started something. Jesus took on the baton, and now he passed on that same baton that he received from John the Baptist to his apostles, and in turn would form the early church. In Psalm 47, we are reminded that God mounts his throne amid shouts of joy, amid trumpet blasts. Sing praise to God. Sing praise to our King. He will go on to say, he reigns over all nations, sits upon his holy throne. So, we are a people that must be filled with ardent hope as we await for Christ to come again the way that he left, as the historian Theophilus would tell us. He will return the same way he has left. Now, mind you, when Jesus returns, the jury is out, all bets are off, and there's no question in my mind that he will not be pleased with the way things are going. Yeah, that's for sure. But what can we do in the meantime? For those of us that are filled with fervent faith and, of course, ardent hope, we must go and preach to all corners of the world. Yes, it may be hard, but we are called to do it. Quite fittingly, the Ascension this year falls on the feast of St. Matthias, who was the replacement of Judas. And, of course, like the other 10 apostles, Matthias will suffer a martyrdom that was just as great as the other 10. But of course, St. John will live to tell most of the tales. In a poem that was written by Richard Hobbs, one of the profound verses was very profound, and I think it's very poignant as we continue to reflect on the Ascension, regardless of what day it falls. They were to be my witnesses. On them I have placed responsibility for preaching the good news to the whole world. If I had not gone back to my Father, which one of them would have left Jerusalem to go to the nations? Would they not all have stayed near me? But before I went back, in the same way I will come again, they worshiped me. And they finally understood what Peter and James and John had seen on the Mount of Transfiguration. Now, earlier in the Gospel of Matthew, we hear about the account of the Transfiguration. It was, think of it as a foreshadow of what was to come, in which Jesus was going to sit at the right hand of God, and of course return the same way he did. Now, for 3 years, the apostles were following him around, and Jesus told them time and time again that something was going to happen, and it was fulfilled. Now, here's the fun part. We must carry on the good news. St. Augustine reminds us that just as God ascended into the right hand of God, our hearts must ascend as well. In order for us to do that, we must have the fervent faith and ardent hope that will change the world. And let's face it, the world is scary. I agree with you. But what are we going to do about it? Are we just going to walk away? Or are we going to do something about it? Go and preach. The first words Jesus said to the apostles were, "Come and follow me." And the last words, "Go and make disciples." This is where we are, friends. We got a lot of work to do. So, all hands on deck. Happy 40th day of Easter, and God bless.